boxing is going to become like WWE, and let's not do that to ourselves, huh? So you, as a journalist, do your job. Make the authorities actually abide by their own rules, like it used to be. Okay.
Can you tell me about the moment when you decided to come to this fight and support your son?
I was always coming to the fight. I'm always supporting my son. I'm his dad.
How proud are you right now?
With a performance like that, that's showing grit. That's showing perseverance. That's showing love. Is the heart. He's in for a penny. He's in for a pound. Gentlemen, I have to go in and see my son.
Thank you.
There's a two-way rematch clause. Do you want to see the rematch or the end of the saga?
Okay, guys.
Congratulations.
On we go to Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank. What do I got to say about this fight? Well, just like what I told you earlier, right? I told you earlier that this fight was no different than Ian Gary and Carlos Prates. Now, why is it no different? I'm going to tell you why. Because it was a heavy favorite, highly skilled fighter, such as Ian Gary, such as Chris Eubank, taking on an underdog, an unproven underdog. That was the story of April 26, 2025, when it came to the fights that we had witnessed tonight. So as a result of that, Chris Eubank did not even go to his post-press fight conference. Benn did. You want to know why Chris Eubank was not able to make it? It was because of the fact that he was hospitalized. That's how badly he was beaten in this fight, if you can really imagine that. He got beaten to a pulp in this fight, and he still managed to win. Just like Ian Gary earlier, in the 5th round, all Prates need to do was knock him down one time for people to probably call fraud check on Ian Gary. But nonetheless, Ian Gary is a highly skilled fighter. Chris Eubank is a highly skilled fighter with limits towards what he can do in the world level. But what he did against Benn tonight in this entertainment-packed fight, it showed that he has perseverance, but it also shows that he has some vulnerabilities. That's the reality of this fight. Now, what's going to happen with Benn? I will say, Eddie Hearn said something very interesting in a press conference, okay? And what he said in the press conference was something to the effect of, Benn has an opportunity to become very great later on. It just so happens that he took on a seasoned vet right now who is highly experienced in Chris Eubank. Now, can you imagine if, let's say, in 4 years from now, if Eubank was to fight Conor Benn? I think it would be a very different fight. At that point, Chris Eubank would be a little bit older, in his 40s, and maybe even in the rematch, Benn could easily give him problems, although I don't think so. I think it was one of those situations where it was a little too late to mount an offense, especially in the later rounds. And that's the same story that you got on the other side of the fence with the UFC with Ian Gary and Carlos Prates. But either way, it was a great night of fights. It was a great night of boxing. I really enjoyed it. Also, the undercards as well. Let us talk about the undercards that was in Conor Benn and Eubank's event here, okay? Let's go to Topology. Let's go to Topology and take a look at this right here. So, Anthony Yard and Lyndon Arthur were the co-main event. Anthony Yard gets a decision on that one. This was obviously from a trilogy that they had going on. They had one apiece with each other, and then next thing you know, Anthony Yard came in here and settled the score and showed that he was the much more improved fighter between them two over the years. Aaron McKenna was a 19-0 undefeated pro going in here against the veteran of Liam Smith, the guy who knocked out the headliner of this whole entire card, by the way, and also came back and lost to him in a rematch with the series that they had going on. Well, this right here became the biggest win for Aaron McKenna's career, and a unanimous decision he went. Here's another upset of the night right here. Vidal Riley versus Siobhan Clark. Everybody thought that Siobhan Clark had Vidal Riley's number simply because people thought that because he was KSI disciple, that he was a guy from this part of the YouTube boxing space, and just because he was a trainer of a YouTube boxer, that they thought this guy isn't worth anything. Well, they thought wrong. And as a result, Vidal Riley came in here and toppled Siobhan Clark to win the British cruiserweight title. And you know what? I think that he's going to give a lot of people problems in the cruiserweight division. I can see him give Jai Apataya problems, if not even beat him. And you heard it here first. So the first fight in the night, Chris Billam-Smith taking on Brendan Glanton. Once again, this was Chris Billam-Smith's fight to win. Brendan Glanton is a great cruiserweight. I think that he can give a lot of people problems later down the road. But Chris Billam-Smith was a hometown fighter. He was a defending champion. And as a result, he came out of here with a victory. So one last thoughts on Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. I don't think this is a rematch that needs to happen. Listen to what Senior had to say about this. I think that he is far more of the most reasonable voice in this whole entire fight. Now, look, this is an entertainment fight. It had a value with family lineage that comes with this. They had an issue with one fighter winning over the other. Obviously, Chris Eubank got the better of those two. By the end of the night, the father and son relationship with Chris Eubank seemed to have healed due to the magnitude of the they had an issue with one fighter winning over the other. Obviously, Chris Eubank got the better of those two. By the end of the night, the father and son relationship with Chris Eubank seemed to have healed due to the magnitude of the event. And you could probably point out the fact that Chris Eubank Sr., in all of his pride and maybe even some could say arrogance, would not miss out on an opportunity with a big crowd like this. And so he was there, he showed up, and he played his role. Not only did he play his role, but he played his role down to where he did not overstep the main trainer of Chris Eubank, which I think was more important more than anything. But by the end of the day, here's one thing that I got to say to top off all the fight events for April 26, 2025. There are no good guys or bad guys. There are only winners and losers. And there is only your family that you have to face by the end of it all when the lights and the cameras all shut off and everybody goes home. So that is all that I have for April 26, 2025 of all the fight days that we have. I hope that you guys enjoyed every minute of this event, from the Chris Eubank all the way to the KSW, all the way to UFC Fight Night Kansas City. I will see you guys in the next one. And for everybody in the chat, please stay because we are going to continue for a bonus stream. Here we go.